Hello, mate.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
I'm very good. I wasn't expecting that. Hi, birdie. That's very strange, but threw me for a loop a little bit. Prepping myself for this one because
This is
need to.
you. This is yours.
This is me. This is me. Um, just to give our listeners a heads up, this is going to be a double episode. So we're releasing one episode, then 2 weeks later we're releasing part two because we are covering 6 films.
Yep.
We could have covered a hell of a lot more, but we've picked 6, maybe not of the best, but 6 separate versions. Hello and welcome to the Deja Review.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Trev.
Every episode we'll be discussing a movie that's had a remake, reboot, do-over, or reimagining.
We're talking Dracula, Death on the Nile, Godzilla, Casino Royale, Halloween.
So sit back, relax, and we'll take you on a journey of discovery about some iconic and not so iconic movies.
2 long-time friends, 1 podcast. This is the Deja Review. On this episode of the Deja Review, we're discussing Dracula.
Right, so Trev, what films are we doing for this Dracula quadruple double bill?
Quadruple double bill. It's a triple double bill, isn't it?
Triple
bill. Yeah, whichever way round you want to. So we're doing the original 1931 Bela Lugosi Dracula.
Okay.
Then we're doing the Hammer Horror 1958 Christopher Lee, or as it was also known, The Horror of Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
Then we're doing the 1979 with Frank Langella playing Dracula.
Yep.
1992 Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman in the title role. Then we're doing Dracula 2000, which was, I think it was Wes Craven Presents Dracula 2000, and that's Gerard Butler playing Dracula. And finally, we're doing Dracula Untold with Luke Evans in the title role.
Okay, so this week's episode is the first 3.
Yes. So let's start off. So Dracula, released in February 1931, distributed by Real Art Pictures Incorporated and Universal Pictures. Estimated budget, $350,000. Estimated box office, $89,000. Screenplay by John L. Balderston, Garrett Ford, and Dudley Murphy, based on the original story by Bram Stoker, directed by Todd Browning. Rotten Tomatoes critic score 96%, audience score 82%. And a cast of Bela Lugosi, Edward Van Sloan, Dwight Fry, Dave Manners, Francis Dade, and Helen Chandler. Mark, give us a synopsis.
Transylvania vampire Count Dracula bends a naive real estate agent to his will, then takes up residence at a London estate where he sleeps in his coffin by day and searches for potential victims by night.
Ba, ba, ba.
Yes.
I'm just going to start it off by saying I love this film.
Go on then.
Absolutely love this film, as you can tell by the poster behind me, which someone, a certain co-host of mine, actually bought me for Christmas this year, or last year, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah, I love this film. I love the old Universal horror films, this Frankenstein, all of them. But for me, when you think of Dracula, you've got to think of Bela Lugosi. He just epitomized Dracula for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know what you mean. I actually, I got to admit, majority of these Dracula films I watched for the first time.
Really?
Yeah, I think the only one that I've actually watched / purchased, apart from Dracula Untold, which I haven't purchased, was Dracula 2000. Yeah,
wow,
all the rest of them, it's a first watch for all of them.
Wow. I think the only one I hadn't watched, no, I had. I'd watched them all. I'm trying to think. The Langella one I've seen, but it was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
Right. So where do we start on this?
Well, at the beginning.
At the beginning.
It's based on a book.
It's based on a book, but this film was actually based on the stage play. This is more about the story from the stage play than from Bram Stoker's original novel.
Mm-hmm.
And Bela Lugosi was actually Dracula on the stage play.
Yes, and that was 1927.
Yeah.
He was in that.
But he wasn't who they originally wanted for the movie version. Originally, they wanted Lon Chaney.
Yeah.
But he died in 1930, just before this. Bela Lugosi wanted it so much that he actually agreed to take a cut. And I think it was Dave Manners. He was on something like $2,000 a week or something like that. With his appearance fee. And Bela Lugosi actually agreed because he wanted this role so badly that he did it for $500 a week. He just wanted the role so much. And if anything, it made him the name he is now.
Oh, definitely. I think some of this was taken for the Ed Wood film.
Yeah, because it was all around the director, wasn't it? But he only ever played Dracula in one other movie, even though he's sort of like he's epitomized as Dracula.
Yeah.
The only other time he's done it on a couple of TV shows, but the only other time in movies that he's actually appeared as Dracula was in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, where he appears in that. But
originally it was supposed to be a silent movie, wasn't it?
Well, they weren't sure. But because of the stage play, they wanted it as a talkie. There is something from a silent movie in here. You know, the ship that actually brings Dracula to England?
Yes, which is not the Dimitar in this one, is it?
No, but that ship is, the video is actually from a film called The Stormbreaker from 1925. And it was actually a silent movie. Okay. That's why a lot of the movement of the characters, because silent movies were done at a different frame rate to movies with voices added in. So that's why everything looks a little bit jerky and a little bit sped up.
Something that I was, because obviously, as I said, this is the first time I've seen it, I was kind of a bit weirded out with Swan Lake being at the beginning.
Yeah.
It was kind of like a, what's going on?
But they used that for a lot. They actually used that same piece of music for The Mummy, which I think was 1932, somewhere around there, and also for Murders in the Rue Morgue.
Oh, right,
so I don't know whether they sort of like, whoever it was, I like this bit of music, let's stick that in there. But yeah, it's quite weird. It's quite a twinkly piece of music at the beginning.
But there's no other music in there, is there?
Well, no, there's the opera scene where he appears at the opera later on. Did you notice mistakes?
Okay, probably not.
So the first vampire you see is the Bride of Dracula, and then he appears. But then before he appears, you see some creatures. You see an opossum.
Okay.
And you see an armadillo. And there's also a cricket as well that's there. None of them are native to Romania or Transylvania or anywhere. You could tell it was all of them are native to America and the Americas. And the cricket, the Jerusalem cricket, is actually native to California. Mm-hmm. So you can tell where it was actually made. Because I'm watching it, I'm going, opossums, they're not European. So I did a little deep dive. And I think they say the reason they put the armadillo in there was it was armadillos supposedly are found around cemeteries where supposedly they dig in and feast on the corpses.
Right.
But I think that's just more like a morbid rumor than, like an old wives' tale more than anything. So that could be why they were put in there. But you could sort of tell it wasn't in Romania.
Yeah. So how does this differ from the book?
Oh, quite a bit. The characters are the same. I did want to go into the book, but more for the Bram Stoker's one. I don't know if you've ever read the book.
No. I was thinking to myself, usually I put something in the background of related to the movies that I've got. And I thought, I don't think I've got anything of Dracula.
No, every single one of these makes changes of certain characters, and it's mainly the incidental characters like Mina, Lucy, Jonathan Harker. It's who they're related to and
Yeah.
different
And if they're in it or
ways
not.
around it, and if they're in it as well. For example, some of them have Mina as Dr. Seward's daughter, and then other ones will have Lucy as that, and then other times they're not related at all, and it's that's where the changes happen. But this one, they've sort of like taken the characters, but like I say, this is more based on the stage play than actually the book.
Got you.
Because obviously Dracula is based on Nosferatu, but Bram Stoker was the first one who wrote that he could turn into a bat. It was often said that he could turn into a wolf and control night things, but it was in the original novel that he could actually change into a bat.
In the film, I did like the villagers basically going, no, you can't go there at night, blah, 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 and then just trying to fend him off from that point. I did like that element in this film compared to some of the others that we're going to talk about, because either it doesn't actually happen in the film or it's set in an entirely different era, stroke place or wherever.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily as much based on the book, if that makes sense. So for the sheer fact that you got the little villagers there saying, oh, no, you can't go up there.
Yeah, exactly. They do it in a couple of them where they basically try and make it as though there are old superstitions about vampires and Draculas and things like that. And basically someone coming from the modern world is just laughing them up as a stupid idea, which is more or less what happens in most of these. And sometimes you think, well, it serves you right. They did try and warn you.
I thought Renfield was good, even though it was a mixture of Harker and Renfield as the character.
Yeah, Renfield is fantastic in this. And Dwight Fry, who plays him, it's almost like a Jekyll and Hyde. It's the same person, but after he's been basically half turned to become like Dracula's minion. It's the way they do the makeup. So he's got the sunken eyes and then he's got that maniacal laugh. And I just think he does it so well. Do you know what I put it down to? It's almost Smeagol and Gollum.
Yeah.
Where
agree.
He's fighting himself. And because he's also there going, oh yeah, well, you know, we don't want Madame Mina to suffer this or whatever, and then all of a sudden he just goes twist. Yes, master, we do. And it's so good. And bearing in mind that's just with a little bit of makeup and his acting, how he goes from a sympathetic character to this insane guy.
No, that was good. I've got to admit, I thought the ending was abrupt.
Yeah,
it was basically and cut. That's it. End.
Yeah, well, you hear the scream, but the thing is, I don't think that's Bela Lugosi's scream because it sounds like somebody else. And also bearing in mind, he's been very mellow all the way through, hasn't it? And he doesn't talk a lot in it, does he, either?
No.
For the first, 25 minutes, he's more or less a silent character. When he speaks, he doesn't speak a lot. But yeah, it's basically all of the violence is off screen, isn't it? Even the when someone's being bitten or something, everything is off screen in the late 20s, early 30s. I'd imagine that was the censorship. It's the same with, I think it's Frankenstein, where he
goes for the child and
the little child, and all you see is it basically drifts off to the lake, doesn't it? And the next thing you see is the flowers drifting in the water, and you take your own assumptions from that.
And that's what De Niro tried to do as well, didn't he?
I actually think the matte paintings were really good. They were painted on glass and then sort of like overimposed, but it would have been interesting to see what they looked like in colour as well, because I bet the detail went into it to
it would have
really make them look good. So in this as well, Van Helsing is actually more a scientist. So everything from his is sort of like from a science background. And he does, when things are proved right, he does have this weird smug look about him all the time. And it's sort of like, yeah, see, told you. See, told you. You all mocked me and laughed, but yeah, told you. The other thing I think this film started, which a few of the other films do as well, with slight variations, is the pause where he says,
I never drink. Why?
but it's that pause between what he doesn't drink. The other reason you can tell this was made in America is how much they don't understand the geography of England.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Seward's sanatorium is right near Whitby and London.
Yep.
And for anybody who doesn't know, Whitby and London are 258 miles apart. So it'd be quite hard for it to be right next to each other.
So again, regards to these films, this wasn't the first vampire film.
No, you had Nosferatu early on, but yeah, it was the first time Dracula had been brought to the big screen. Yeah, because the novel was based on about 3 or 4 different vampire myth books.
Yeah.
A couple of the others had names, but this was the one that became sort of the most famous.
Yeah. Right, you got anything else on this one?
I don't think so, my friend. I think we've just sort of saying
I thought
that.
You would have deep dived this one a bit more than you have.
I really did want to, but I thought we've got 6 films to do. I've got to rein myself in a little bit. So I was actually behaving myself on this one.
That makes
But I will just say, even before we do it, which we're going to do, it's always going to be this man. It's always going to be Bela Lugosi is the number 1 Dracula for me. Don't get me wrong. I think some of the other actors who play Dracula are fantastic. But to me, it will always be Bela Lugosi.
No, that's fair enough, mate. So should we move on to the next one, which is going to be the 58? Right. So Dracula or Horror of Dracula, 1958. Released June in 1958. Distributed by Hammer Films and Universal International. Estimated budget, 81,000. Estimated box office, 3.5 million. Screenplay by Jimmy Sangster and directed by Terence Fisher. Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 89%. Audience score, 81%. And the cast, Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee, Michael Gough, Melissa Stribling, and Carol Marsh. Trev, what's the synopsis on this version?
When Jonathan Harker rouses the ire of Count Dracula for accepting a job at the vampire's castle under false pretenses, his friend Dr. Van Helsing pursues the predatory villain. Oh, that was a mouthful.
Yeah, rough. And it's the first one for both of them, isn't it? Cushing and Lee.
Yeah, the first vampire one anyway, or first Dracula one.
Yeah, this is a very different Dracula. Christopher Lee's interpretation was completely different, deliberately, from the Bela Lugosi's version. Yeah,
this is the only film where Jonathan Harker actually knows who Dracula is, or what he is from the beginning. All the others, he's sort of quite naive, isn't he? And he's just there normally to sell in Carfax Abbey or rent out Carfax Abbey to him.
Yeah.
In this one, he's there. He goes there to be the librarian.
I think so.
Yeah, it's his librarian. And again, you think he's very naive when he gets there, but then all of a sudden you realise he knows exactly what is going on and who he is.
Yeah, because he's secretly a vampire hunter anyway, isn't he?
Yeah,
or he's just a solicitor.
Yeah, it's weird because they don't fully explain what's going on. You find out afterwards when Peter Cushing's introduced that Peter Cushing's Van Helsing was Jonathan Harker's mentor.
Yeah.
But it doesn't really explain how they got together, how they know about vampires or anything like that. It's just like, it's more or less Van Helsing's told him and he's believed it. Yeah, great. But he did make one of the biggest errors in movie history, I think.
Go on.
Where he goes down into that sort of like cellar area.
Yeah.
He finds Dracula and then he finds the female vampire.
Yeah.
He decides to kill the female one first instead of killing the one who you know is the main vampire, the head vampire.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you stake him first?
Why didn't he do Dracula first? Dick is my note on there.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't quite work that one out.
The other thing that made me laugh earlier on was, would you like a drink? Yes, you have a choice of red, green, or brown. Fuck knows what the drinks are. You've got a choice of red, green, or brown.
Yes. Would you like a glass of green?
That's exactly what it looked like to me.
One of the things I did like is that they gave a little nod to the Lugosi films where when he's looking menacing as the vampire, they just had the light sort of focused on the eyes.
Yeah.
Which was very similar to what happened in the Lugosi version.
I was going to comment saying, do you think Michael Goff's got a thing for bats?
It could be, yeah.
For those who don't get the reference, Michael Goff was in this, and he was also Alfred in Batman.
Yes, in the Tim Burton Batmans, and then the others after that we won't mention too much.
Talking to Michael Goff, I think his overreaction when Lucy is getting staked was a bit mental.
Yeah. So Michael Goff is Arthur Homewood.
Arthur, yeah.
And Mina is his wife in this.
Yes.
And then Lucy is his sister, who is engaged to Jonathan Harker.
Yeah,
so it's
a complete turnaround of characters.
Yeah, so they're sort of the two girls are sister-in-laws instead of friends as they normally are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's sort of the Arthur Homewood is again a character from it, but they've brought them all together in one group, really.
Yes, as a family.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And basically, it was Dracula goes after them as revenge for Jonathan Harker, basically going after him.
Mm-hmm.
So he decides, right, that's it. I'm going to have your fiancée. I'm going to have your sister-in-law. I'm going to go for the whole lot of them.
What do you think about Renfield not being included in this one?
I think because you've got Jonathan Harker going there for the reason he does.
Yes.
That he didn't need to be in there. You haven't got Dr. Seward in there either.
No, you haven't.
From the original. So it's just Hammer. Hammer did that with a lot of their horror films. They tried to put their own spin on them and change the stories, and they even changed some of the mythology. The follow up to this one, they basically had it where he couldn't cross running water, which is a weird one to add with vampires. Yeah,
especially seeing as was that not running water that he came across, like the sea,
the bridge out, and wasn't it running water? The bridge outside his house. Yeah, exactly. So we won't go into that one anyway. So some of the mythology goes a bit wayward.
Yeah, but I think that's because of the 80-minute runtime. It's drastically shortened the story to fit within that time frame. So you don't have any of the we're going sailing on this ship between the two sites, and literally I'm going from London to Transylvania, from Transylvania to London. It's just almost instant.
Yeah. They don't cut much out, do they? At all. There's one major error in here that I see is that when Van Helsing, after Lucy's been turned, he holds that huge silver cross in her face.
Yes.
Highly polished silver cross that reflects her face, isn't it? How is it reflecting her face when you cannot see?
What made me laugh was Cushing was very sprightly, should we say, when he's leaping up all the stairs and everything else like that, and then slapping the housemaid.
Yes. Well, a few of these vampire films, they like giving people a slap.
Yeah.
You don't want to get over dramatic when you're in here because you're liable to get a slap in the face.
Yeah. So what did you think to his Van Helsing?
I liked it. Again, as I said earlier, if you're going to have, for me, Bela Lugosi is always epitomizes Dracula for me. And I think Peter Cushing is probably Van Helsing for me whenever I see it. Yeah. You always have it. I always have him in there. But, this is sort of like this. I would say it's around about the start of when Hammer became huge. And they more or less took every Universal monster and
did their own version of it.
And many versions. I think they were sort of like low budgets, but they were selling, and they
But that's
did
the thing;
really
they weren't being used either. The
no,
Universal were not using those monsters, so why
not by
not
that
have
point. They
the
hadn't.
budget? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. So I think Hammer grabbed what they could from Universal, saying, "Right, we can do our version of this, 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 and this." And I think they did something for most of the Universal monsters, but I don't think they did anything for the creature.
no, I don't think so. But
But-
whether it's because a lot of them were set in England,
And a lot of them were literature first.
could be.
I think Creature of the Black Lagoon was probably just a Universal property that they created rather than based off of a 18th,
Well,
19th
I think it's
century
sort of
horror
based.
film, horror
I think
book.
it's based off of like an urban myth, isn't it?
Myth.
The
Yeah.
Black Lagoon. But no, I liked them. It's sort of some of these Hammer films. They're so campy as well.
Yeah.
That they were perfect. I didn't realize how early they were because in my head they're late 60s, 70s, but I didn't realize how early some of them actually started.
This one being 58, I think.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think there was a few, should we say, subjects in there that probably wouldn't have been good for having in the late 50s, but were more sequenced to about the mid 60s.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people made their careers off of these films.
Oh yeah.
You'd think that it probably made Christopher Lee, it probably made Peter Cushing.
Mhm.
And there's lots of actresses and actors, and a lot of the actresses, if they were slightly buxom, they were in quite a few of the horror films.
From Hammer.
From Hammer, yeah.
And
but yeah,
Carry On films.
And Carry, yeah, definitely.
So, the ending of this film. Was you expecting an evil laugh like Ming the Merciless?
Oh, with the
picking up the ring.
Yeah. Or the latest Masters of the Universe.
Masters of the Universe, yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty much that moment.
There's the link.
Yes, another link.
Another link. There's always a ring left, isn't there? In these films. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, it was just hilarious. I did think it was going to go into Ming the Merciless.
Anyway, so I said to you before we even started that I translated some Latin.
Oh yeah, of course you did. What was the Latin that you translated from this?
It was in this one when Jonathan Harker arrives early, and there's a coat of arms in Dracula's castle that says "Fidelis et Mortem," which means faithful and death.
Okay.
Yeah, I just thought I'd translate it for the sheer hell of it.
Did you see in May that this was announced for having a 4K restoration?
All right.
It's also going back to the cinema in October.
That's a weird... In October this year?
Yeah. Well, obvious reason why October, but...
Yeah, obviously. I just thought you would have thought they'd waited until a sort of like anniversary to do it, but...
No. Well, 2 years would be an anniversary, but yeah, I agree with you. But yeah, no, it's going back to the cinema in October this year.
Cool.
So
it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you want, knowing you'll probably go out and watch it at the cinema.
Well, if they did the Lugosi one, I might go and watch that. But we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see what happens on that one. Right.
I think we're done for this one.
Cool. So we're moving on to the next one, getting through these quite quickly. This one is Disco Dracula. So go on, introductions by you.
So the third film of this episode, Dracula, 1979, released in August 1979, distributed by Universal Pictures. Estimated budget, 12 million. Estimated box office, 20 million. Screenplay by W.D. Richter. Directed by John Badham. Rotten Tomatoes critic score, 63%. Audience score, 59%. And a cast of Frank Langella, Laurence Olivier, Donald Pleasance, Kate Nelligan, Trevor Eve, and Jan Francis. Mark, what's the synopsis?
In 1913, the charming, seductive, and sinister vampire Count Dracula travels to England in search of an immortal bride. Really? This is definitely Disco Dracula.
Yeah, it's very 70s, isn't it?
It's just ridiculously 70s.
Yeah. 70s hair, 70s colours. But don't you think Frank Langella looks like a really naff 70s magician.
Yeah, he does really seem like a David Copperfield effect on there, doesn't he?
Yeah. I kept waiting for him to say something like, "I'm going to bite you. You'll like it, but not a lot."
Do you know what I sat there thinking? It opened up and I went, "Oh, look, it's Skeletor as Dracula."
Yeah. It was.
But that's the thing. You can see some of the stuff that he did in this actually in that Skeletor role.
It was the thing which got me with this one is I actually really liked it, and they did lots of different stuff with it. It was almost like it wanted to be a Confessions of Dracula film, because there was a few double entendres in there. Some of the scenes were a little bit sort of like almost semi-erotic, and some of the way they're talking to each other is like, it's like they wanted to make a Dracula softcore porn film, but didn't.
And this is what they ended up with.
Yeah.
But the bit where Dracula and Mina Harker are getting together, it was like a bleeding Bond movie opening. I was expecting something like For Your Eyes Only to be played over the top of it.
Some of the special effects, they were definitely of their time. Let's have some lights and a smoke machine in front of it. And
twinkle, twinkle, twinkle.
Yeah.
You saying about it, though, is
Yeah.
because it was based on a 70s stage show, the 1977 Broadway revival of Dracula. So that's why it's come through as being a bit more 70s.
There was a line that made me laugh near the beginning when the ship crashes and then you've got people the next day there, obviously rescuing all trying to
stealing stuff.
In the background, you could just hear someone shout, "Tell those women to get out of the way. They're not helping." I'm thinking, Jesus Christ. This was another one where they had the I never drink wine. Had the pause. It wasn't quite as long a pause, but it was in there.
No, thank you, doctor. I never drink wine.
And again, they swapped the Lucy Mina characters around in this one.
Lucy's Dr. Steward's daughter, and Jonathan Harker's fiance, and Mina is Van Helsing's daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they swapped that around a little bit.
Which is good because it gives Van Helsing a decent reason to go after Dracula.
Yeah. Again, he was more of a scientist in this one.
Yeah.
Who sort of knew about the mythology.
Yes.
Of vampires, and then that was it. That was the reason he went after them. And this one was even, I think there was a lot more slaps. I know we mentioned it in the last one.
Yeah.
There was,
I can't breathe. Slap.
I can't. No. Before she could breathe, he bounced her head up and down on the pillow quite a few times before giving her a slap. And then later on, there's a few slaps going on. I think Lucy got a slap as well.
Just after that, was it me or did Sylvester McCoy stab Toby Haygrath with the scissors?
It looked like it, didn't it?
Yeah. It was just one of those moments of, did I just see him stab him accidentally with those scissors? But there's a lot of celebs in this. British celebs,
yeah. Trevor Eve, very over-the-top acting.
Yeah.
Just seemed as though he had to shout pretty much most of his lines. Jan Francis, who British people will know, she used to be in a comedy series of Just Good Friends, I think it was called.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And obviously Sylvester McCoy, who played Doctor Who, among many other things. And you've also got some big actors in here, sort of like Laurence Olivier for a start. And Donald Pleasance, two classic British actors. It was unusual to have an American actor playing Dracula in a very British cast.
Agreed.
But the thing I did like is that the people in Whitby, at least they had a northern accent, which is unusual, I think, because a lot of these productions are American productions. So it's like, well, we'll just do a British accent. A British accent is whatever this sounds like.
Yeah.
But at least in this one, I think because it was a British-made production, the people in Whitby did have a northern accent.
So another thing that I did notice, Cornwall.
Mhm.
featured a hell of a lot in this film. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of the places that are in this film that I've been to in Cornwall and still pretty much look almost exactly the same. So St Michael's Mount, Mavagavisi and places like that still look exactly like it. And it was nice watching a film with how they were then and realising that there's a lot of effort gone into making them still look the same,
Mm. Mm.
which is nice.
They had a nice little change to an original line from the Lugosi film where Lugosi says about when the wolves howl, and he says,
Children of the night, what music they make.
and in this one, he actually says,
The children of the night. What sad music they make.
which is nice little change, a little twist on it. And she sort of says it's quite, she quite likes it, doesn't she?
Yeah. Did the score?
Yes.
Got to mention him.
He has a very large career, doesn't he, John Williams?
Yeah, Mr. John Williams. And again, with the London Symphony Orchestra,
Yeah.
rather than using a subtle music, he's gone for a full orchestral score, which is completely different to the rest of them, if you're with me. I think it harps back to Swan Lake from the original, but I think, again, it was a carry-on style film for the Hammer one that didn't have that big orchestra music moments.
There was another vampire giving a reflection error in this one.
Okay.
You think when they go into the cave and he's looking into that pond or
Yeah.
the puddle or whatever it is, and Mina's reflected in it. How?
Yeah.
I thought they don't cast reflections. But did you notice her makeup was more like a zombie makeup
It was.
with
Yeah.
like the skin peeling and things like that? It was I get it because she's decomposing, but it was not very good makeup.
No,
It was obviously like tissue paper or,
Yeah.
a really bad latex just sort of stuck on. Let's cover her face in as much white makeup as we can and maybe just sink in her eyes a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't exactly the greatest makeup.
It wasn't at all. Dracula himself, I think from the romanticized versions of Dracula that we've had previously, I think this is the first one where he's an out-and-out predator.
Yeah, that's what I say. It was more an erotic. He's definitely after something.
One thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
with no background.
No.
At the end of the day, I think that expands in the next version that we're going to talk about why there's a background to why he's after that specific person. I think it was glossed over in this.
I don't think it needed it. I thought it was, it did enough of the storytelling. And also it's unusual for it to be set a little bit later on.
Yeah.
Because they brought cars into this one. It was, 1913 it was set. So it was a slightly different setting for normal. But no, I quite liked it. It wasn't brilliant, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And it was probably even more campy than the Hammer one.
Oh, agreed. In places it was. It was definitely that 70s feel. But
Yeah.
you saying about the car, the moment where the horse goes ploughing into that car,
Yeah.
I had to wince at that.
There was a few things in here that I liked. There was stuff I didn't like. But it was a nice change. It was almost comedic without meaning to be, some of the stuff.
It was definitely of its era.
I like the way they left it open for a supposed sequel.
Mhm.
With so basically he got hit by a very lucky shot by that hook, and then hooked up, and then he's out there in daylight, and then what was obviously a kite flying away, because it definitely wasn't a person.
Oh yeah.
But it was like, let's leave this open for a slight sequel, which never sort of came about. Little bit of a question for you.
Yeah.
What is the connection between this and the 1931 original that didn't happen in any of the other films?
They're both stage shows?
No, that wasn't the one I was going to say.
No, go for it.
Those are the only two films where Dracula doesn't have fangs.
Hmm.
Because everything's shown off screen on the Bela Lugosi one. And
Yeah.
in this one, he doesn't actually have fangs when he And again, everything's done in that silhouette disco sort of fashion. You don't actually see anything. And if anything, she'd just have a bloody great love bite, wouldn't she? I think
No, exactly.
the way he was going for her neck there.
Well, you know why it was kind of very much set like this, don't you?
And why is that?
The director. What was his previous movie before this one?
Oh, I don't know.
Saturday
me.
Night Fever.
He's definitely got John Travolta's hair from Saturday Night Fever, and I think the collars as well are very much that. Yeah,
I did like it. I thought the whole asylum stuff was good.
yeah. I like the way when he swans in when you first actually see him, and he swans in, he just takes off his cape or his coat and just sort of throws it, and then carries on swanning in, and it's sort of like, wow, you jumped up, little prick. I love it.
Oh dear. Yeah, so 79 was jam-packed with vampires.
Mm-hmm.
You had Werner Herzog's Nosferatu the Vampire,
Mm-hmm.
and also George Hamilton's comedy Love at First Bite.
Yes. And also around this time, you also had Blackula, which
Yes.
was the blaxploitation version of Dracula. There was lots of them around. There was some really, I think there was even one of the Italian ones at the time as well. They did like a vampire film around about this time. Did you notice the breaking of the fourth wall?
I probably did, but it's a couple of weeks since I watched the film. Go on, carry on.
When Dracula's climbing down or up the walls, there's one scene where he's going down and he looks across sideways directly into the camera and then looks back and then carries on crawling down the wall. And it's sort of like, is he actually looking at us? Is he supposed to be like checking out what's going on? But it really does look like he's breaking. I almost wanted him to wink at the camera and then carry on going.
Oh dear, that's not good. Right, is that it for this film?
I think so, my friend.
Is that it for part one?
Yes. Oh, blimey, we've done 3 already.
Yeah. So if that's the end of part one, is there any 5 to 1s you want to do? For example, Christopher Lee?
Yeah, why not? Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So we'll do Christopher Lee as 5 to 1. Come on in. Let's start with this one. Have you got any honourable mentions?
I have quite a few, actually.
Okay, that's not surprising.
So I have all of the Lord of the Rings films, including The Hobbit.
Okay.
Or the Hobbit films. His work on the Discworld TV series where he played the voice of death. So you were on Welcome to Discworld, The Colour of Money, things like that.
Yeah.
The Musketeer films where he played Roquefort. Him as Sherlock Holmes in a few films. And not forgetting his heavy metal career.
No,
exactly. I think he released two albums.
Yeah,
I think it was 2 albums. And it was heavy metal music around the life of Charlemagne.
It was. Which was obviously one of his ancestors as well. Funny
yes. But yeah, he had quite an obsession.
Do you know who's trying to outdo him recently?
I noticed that.
Mr. William Shatner.
Yes.
Being the oldest person to release a metal album.
Mm.
So, yeah.
Less said about that, the better. What about you? Have you got any honourable mentions?
Yeah, I have. It's Dr. Wonka from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, whichever one. His character in Gremlins 2, which I thought was a classic. And I know it's posthumous, but the documentary, The Life and Deaths of Christopher Lee, I think is another good one because it does give you a lot of information about his backstory, where he witnessed the last execution
in France
via guillotine in France, and was a member of, should we say, a secret organization during World War II, and lots of information about him. So
James Bond. He was James Bond.
Well, wasn't he? Is the cousin of Mr. Fleming?
I think so.
But also his relationships back to Charlemagne, as we just mentioned. All of that is in this documentary, and it is brilliant. It's well worth watching. So yeah,
I still haven't watched it.
Watch that. Yeah.
Okay. I will do that then.
Okie dokies. Right. So go on in. What's your number 5?
My number 5 was a TV series called Gormenghast. Yes. It was based on the Mervyn Peake novels. I just remember watching it and really, really enjoying it. And I think it was quite short-lived. I don't think it went down as well as they expected, but I haven't seen it for a while, but I remember really, really enjoying it. I'd actually like to watch it again.
I agree with you. That was going to be on my list, but because I haven't seen it for so long, was it clouding in my mind, if that made sense? So I would agree completely with you that that would actually be an honourable mention for me. But yeah, Gormenghast was, it was very incredible TV series.
What about you? What's your number 5?
Number 5 for me is Sleepy Hollow, and ironically another film that Mr. Goff turns up in as well. Yeah, Sleepy Hollow. It's Tim Burton. I think that's a really good film. I enjoyed it, based on the Headless Horseman mythology. Your number 4, Trev?
My number 4 is one you've already mentioned, and it's Gremlins 2: The New Batch. But he never did much comedy stuff, or never did much that was humorous.
Yeah.
And in here, he was playing himself, but with that tongue-in-cheek humor. He played a scientist, didn't he? And it's the reason there's all these different, or one of the reasons there's all these different types of gremlin around.
Yeah.
And he's just great in it. It's just a very dry humor, and he's just perfect, absolutely perfect. And
it's one of those.
I love the film.
Yeah, so do I. It's one of those appearances where it reminds you of Vincent Price when he did the "I'm actually Vincent Price playing Vincent Price, but pretending not to play Vincent Price" moments.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that as well. That's why for me it's an honourable mention.
Right. What about you? What's your number 4?
Rochefort, Three Musketeers, and Four Musketeers.
4 Musketeers, and isn't it Musketeers Ride Again or something like that?
Something like that.
Yeah, there's 3 of them, isn't there? Yeah.
Very, very good as Rochefort. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, if you want anyone to have that element.
That
element of menace, it's him, and he is perfect as that character. So if you haven't seen it, the 1970s and early 80s, it was early 80s, wasn't it? Yeah, 1970s, early 80s, Michael York, Three Musketeers movies, well worth watching, which we might do next year.
Okay. Yeah, that might be a long episode.
I know, tell me about it. Your number 12.
My number 12 is, I've gone a bit broad here.
Oh, God.
His Hammer films, because he wasn't just Dracula, he was in other Hammer films as well. So trying to pick one wasn't easy. So it's him in the Hammer horror films, because also I think that they are what made him as well.
Yeah.
So
from a background character actor into someone who's lead actor, the Hammer films pretty much kind of made him a bit more famous.
Yeah. To be a typical bad guy, I think was. So what about you? What's your number 3?
Mr. Scaramanga.
The man with the golden gun. Yeah.
Yeah. At the end of the day, we mentioned Mr. Bond earlier. We mentioned Ian Fleming, and with Christopher Lee turning up and playing Scaramanga, it was, I think, one of the best villains opposite Roger Moore.
Yeah.
And that's saying something, because I don't think there were, to be honest, that many legendary villains in front of Roger Moore. I think he is the biggest one of the lot. And I think, the whole sequence where they do the duel with the pistol, shall we say, that on the island and all of that just sums up Bond for me. Especially that era. So Scaramanga. I really did like that one. Your number 2.
Okay, this is almost similar to number 3, and that is him as Dracula.
Okay.
In all the Dracula films, it's okay. Some of them are worse than others. Sort of this one, the Horror of Dracula, or the 1958 one, was great. The follow-up, not so good. But then you've got, I think, AD 1972, Dracula AD 1972, which was great. Just him. Again, he is Hammer's Dracula, and he was just perfect in it. So for me, that was definitely my number 2. It was tight, but number 1 had to go in there, and there was no way that was going to change.
No, fair enough.
What about you? Your number 2?
Saruman from Lord of the Rings. Yeah. We're getting to the point now where he's playing some memorable characters. And yeah, Saruman for me in Lord of the Rings is one of his most memorable. Yeah. It will stand the test of time as long as, for as long as those Peter Jackson movies go, then you'll just have him as Saruman just popping up, and it will be, should we say, as he is with Dracula, for some people, he is the only person that could play that role. So, yeah. And what's your number 1, my friend?
My number 1 is The Wicker Man, where he plays Lord Summerisle. It's just a fantastic film. Dark, twisted. You don't expect what's going to happen in the film. You don't know what you're going to get, but it is so good. And he is brilliant in it. And I love the film. Absolutely love the film. Another one we may do, because there was a very interesting remake to that.
Nicolas Cage movie called the same thing.
Yeah. Have a guess which one I'm going to prefer. But anyway, before we get to that one, so what about you? What's your number 1?
The one thing that I'm missing out on is obvious characters is Count Dooku.
Right.
So, yeah, his Star Wars Count Dooku character, I think, again, the same as Saruman. All the looks will always look like Christopher Lee as, Count Dooku. Even with the latest stuff that they're doing, they haven't got Lee to do the voice anymore, but they will always have Lee's look. And, yeah, I think he's left his mark on those franchises. So the last 3 for me were really big hitters: Bond, Lord of the Rings, and Star Wars. And each of those, he has left a real mark on those genres and on those.
The only reason
films.
I didn't pick Count Dooku is basically because the films were weaker. Nothing against him. He was great in them. But it's just that the films weren't great. He was mainly in that second one in, what was it, Attack of the Clones? No. Yeah, Attack of the Clones. Yeah. And then the third one, he's not in as much, is he?
No, but his character is still carried on.
But then he was in Clone. Yeah, his voice was used in Clone Wars, but yeah, that's the reason. It was basically because they were weak. The films were weaker, and I think
fair enough.
The other stuff he's done is stronger.
Right, here we go. Any dishonourable mentions?
No.
Straight in with the one and only. Right, okay. What's your worst film for Christopher Lee?
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I think I mentioned it in the episode. It's just no. It's a new character that's been added in, and
because it's Christopher Lee.
Yeah. But it's just no. It didn't do a lot to me. I think we said that in the actual episode, so check it out if you want to.
Yep.
But yeah, that was my one bad. So what about you? What's your any dishonourables?
No dishonourables from me.
Just straight in again.
Yeah.
Go on.
So he plays a character called Miguel, and it was a film that was released in 1979, and it's called Captain America 2: Death Too Soon.
I haven't seen it.
I have.
And
it's bloody awful.
I don't really want to.
If you're a Marvel fan, you've got to watch it. Trevor, are you a Marvel fan?
I am a Marvel fan. Please don't make me watch it.
Yeah, it's bad. Plus, we could actually have that as part of our remakes as well. So you would have to watch it.
It's surprising how much he's been in, and even sort of like smaller stuff, because he was in Space 1999. He was just in lots of sort of like things going, he was in that. And this is when his career was bigger.
More than anything.
Yeah, but this was even after his career had taken off. But no, he's just such a versatile actor. And his voice his voice is so recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah, just perfect. Absolute perfect. A great actor, sadly missed. Yeah, I don't think we'll see his like again. Not for a long while.
Not for a while. So, right. So that's it for this first part.
Yes.
Anything else you wanted to say before we get on to the next one?
I don't think so. We'll see you in 2 weeks for part 2 of the
Yeah,
Dracula double bill.
absolutely. And again, don't forget, you can support us by buying us a coffee these days. Everything gets plowed straight back into the podcast. We have, as you've seen recently, a new website that we've got up and running. And yeah, we're just improving as we go on. Right, mate. Good speaking to you.
And you, my friend?
Please remember to follow, like, and subscribe. Where can they get hold of us, Trev?
Follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Blue Sky. Just go to @TheDejaReview or contact us via our email, which is thedejareview@gmail.com.
I'm Mark.
And I'm Trev.
Enjoy yourselves.